It's never been running.
Is it pretty close?
So we'll get started. Well, at least we can maybe take care of the minutes instead while we're waiting on Megan, and then hopefully she's here by the time we pick up the application. So we're at December 9th. So I'm gonna call to order the December 9th, 2025 Town of Canterbury Planning Board meeting. Agenda. First item on the agenda is approval of the November 4th and October 28th draft meeting minutes to start with October 28th. Did anyone have any changes that they emailed to you on those?
Yeah. If anybody wants paper copies of the changes. The suggested changes for October 28th, on line 139, it currently says Megan asked what kind of commercial businesses the applicant would want to put in these lots. The applicant indicated no preference as long as the proposed use is legal. The suggested change was Megan referenced the applicant's prior comment about preparing the site to attract commercial that the town wants. Megan then asked the applicant to summarize their understanding of the kind of commercial development the town wants based on previous meetings with town comments and discussions with the board. The applicant explained they had no preference as long as the proposed use was legal.
Alright, does anyone here have an issue with that proposed change?
Okay.
Alright.
Line 244, it currently says she doesn't think a storage unit or billboard are appropriate. The suggested one is just adding for Canterbury's needs on the end of that.
Alright,
I'll stop you at 246, there's an extra word, it says she is disagrees.
That's a typo that somebody already told me about, so I'll correct that.
okay. And then the third one?
That's for the November 11th.
Oh, I see,
November
okay.
4th.
Anyone else have any other proposed changes to the 10:28 minutes? Alright, can I get a motion to approve those minutes as amended?
As amended.
Second?
Second.
Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Perfect. Moving on to the 11/4/2025 minutes.
There was one proposed change on line 202. It currently reads, Megan spoke about how the board has a dual role as a semi-judicial body and as representatives of the community. She thinks it is fair in the CUP to ask for conditions and consider the applicant's intent. She disagreed with Cal's statement that the board is approaching this from a not in my backyard perspective. The suggested change is Megan stated her application or her appreciation for Cal's comments and wanted to clarify that she is not approaching this from a not in my backyard perspective. She supports more housing and disagrees that this type of development is best for Canterbury. Megan spoke about how the board has a dual role as a semi-judicial body and as representatives of the community. As a representative, she thinks it is fair to consider the applicant's intent and ask for conditions under the CUP. She stated that as a semi-judicial body, the board must judge the application on its legal adherence to relevant ordinances. Megan expressed her understanding of the board's approach as holding both of these responsibilities.
I don't have any issues with that change. Anyone else have any other issues? Any other changes to those minutes?
I just wanna make a comment that, that's not what I remember her saying, and I think she's, elaborating a little bit more than what she said in the meeting, so this is.
I watched the video and that is what she said.
Okay. Then I will retract that.
Okay. Alright. Can I get a motion to approve 11/4 minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second? Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Excellent, thank you, Cal, for pulling those and printing copies for us to look at. Alright, let's start the public hearing on the subdivision application for map 208, lot 8. It's Mark and Sharon Ackerstrom. Welcome, so I'm gonna give you an opportunity first to introduce the application, walk through anything you want on the checklist, and then the first thing that we're gonna do after that is determine whether the application is complete, so whether we have all the information we need. Alright,
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Craig Bailey, here representing Mr. and Mrs. Ackerstrom, the landowners here. Before you is a 3-lot subdivision, residential, frontage subdivision on Baptist Hill Road. You can go ahead with the acceptance if you want.
Are the applicants here?
So if that's it, does the board have any questions related to like information, what information's there, location if you're having trouble finding it, and if not, I'll probably have us walk through the subdivision requirements and all that, so we can make sure that we have all the information we need.
Just to be clear, this is one lot being divided into 3 lots.
Correct.
Alright, so I guess I'll start off. I see on both pages, there's delineation of some amount of wetland. And one thing I don't see on either page is any proposed building envelopes or locations for driveways to get to those building envelopes, and how those two things would impact with the wetlands, particularly that center one 8-1. So am I missing anything? Is there, what's the proposal in terms of building envelopes and driveways?
Each lot is accessible from the road without any impacts to the wetlands. Lot 8-1, the center lot, you can see that there is ample room on the sideline to sneak a driveway through.
Which sideline?
The southern sideline, where's my?
It might be
Western.
helpful if you're able, if you could put that plan up while you're walking through the 3 so that everyone can see.
They don't have plans? Do they have plans?
We have one large set and then.
Don't we submit 5 copies?
I don't know,
I think we do.
well, we don't.
I have my own plan I'm looking at, so.
We got digital copies. I just think it would be helpful if working off of the large set that you have, so that we make sure we're all looking at the exact same line at the same time.
So the building envelopes are shown by the application of the side setbacks. These being greater than 12.5 acres each, these are sizable lots. And so the building envelopes are depicted by the setbacks lines being shown from the property line, and as well as the setbacks from the wetlands. And so the envelope is everything that isn't in those setbacks. Mr. Ackerstrom is not planning on constructing anything here, he plans on selling the lots. And so there is no construction proposal from the applicant.
And where's the driveway on 8-1?
The driveway is not shown,
I know.
however, it would have to go down the western sideline as it comes off of Baptist Hill Road. So that it could, in fact, get between the wetland and the property line without any impacts.
Got it. And how far would it be from the property line if there were a driveway there?
These setbacks are 30-foot setbacks, I believe.
And there's room for the, whatever, 18-foot driveway and a
Correct.
30-foot setback?
Yeah.
And what's this loop-de-loop thing?
That's wetland. So the cross, on sheet 1, the cross-hatched area is the wetland, so it is a,
No, I meant this part right here. That's not a road.
that's the wetland.
No, that's the wetlands in the middle.
Yeah.
On the
That's the setback, wetland setback.
That's the setback.
So what he was talking about is the setback. Again, this is talking to the building envelope. They can't build inside of that envelope, and so they can build anywhere else on the lot.
If I hear you right, so you envision an 8-1, they would have to put a driveway in to get past the wetland to get to a place where they would be able to build?
Let's go ahead and switch to the topographical sheet. That's my sheet number 1 of 2.
Yep.
Do you have that? Okay. Now, if they wanted to put a house out back on lot 8-1, then yes, they would have to sneak the driveway in down the western sideline. However, there's over 200 feet of frontage directly off of Baptist Hill, so that they could potentially put a smaller, reasonable house up front. Again, in wetland and not in any of the setbacks. So the small setback is shown right here, where you can see line L10. We have a line label, L10. That's where you could access the lot from the road, extremely short driveway, no wetland impact, and construct right in that envelope. Does Mr. Ackerson think anyone would build a house here? Probably not. They would probably build a home out back, on the back 10 acres of this 13.
And that would cross the wetland?
No,
Yeah, but-
again, we set these sidelines up so that no wetland impacts are required. And the way that this subdivision is shown, the Bureau wouldn't issue any permits because they could access the back of the lot without crossing.
I think he's talking about would come here, not there.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble seeing the frontage, on this, on the plat that I'm looking at.
They're all 300 and a little bit, I think.
They're all 300 and a little bit. Because these are 100 scale plans, we've had to go to the parcel line table method of labeling them. But again, lot number 8-1, the frontage is L10, which is 117 plus 194, and so we're 315 feet
Gotcha.
on average.
Oh, no, I see the Ls, yeah, L10.
Oh,
So I guess my concern in talking to the board is that the information that we need, and part of this that we're hearing but is not shown here, it's not the information that's on the plan that's proposed, is we need enough information to show that there's adequate proposed building envelopes where they could put access ways, where the access ways could also have, sufficient ditches and drainage to not impact those wetlands. Whereas the plan that I'm looking at, it shows wetland that comes right over and crosses a part of the side setback to the, where's my compass road, to the west, and to the north is up there. Where's it? Access driveway, the building envelopes, location of proposed structures. I mean, we don't have to have the proposed structures will go here, but there need to be, and there can be alternative building envelopes with alternative access. Or was it 6.58 on our land use regulations, stormwater management, cascade, basin drainage, ditch, anything that would accompany that.
Again, we're not proposing any construction.
Hold on a second, sir. And on the zoning ordinance 5.2A with the lot size standards, which also requires a rectangle meeting the frontage sides to be shown on the plan and structure setback.
So the structure setbacks are shown, and the lots are shown, so the letter of the law has been met, for sure.
Well, that's the Canterbury rectangle is the thing you're talking about.
There's that piece as well, yes.
That is unusual part of our ordinance called the Canterbury rectangle. Do we know what number it is?
It's 5.2, it's like A4, I think.
I don't think you're gonna have any problem complying with it, I mean, just that it's required to be there.
Where's my zoning ordinance? Oops, I apologize, it's 5.1, so. Oh, sorry, 5.2, minimum lot. Each lot must contain within its bounds a rectangle meeting these requirements. Each of the sides parallel to the front boundary line must equal or exceed the minimum lot width depth in the zone. Each of the other sides must equal or exceed the minimum lot depth required in the zone. That's typically something that we ask to be shown on the plan so that we can confirm it. As it relates to 8.1 in particular, which I think is part of my concern, we don't have a potential building area for that front lot either with dimensions so we can see both access and how it fit, or anything showing how a driveway could actually fit without impacting the wetland, both the driveway itself and any necessary ditches that go along with it. So those are my two primary concerns, just in terms of the information we have before we even get to the merits of the subdivision. Anyone else on the board have questions about what information's here, or
What,
information that,
What would satisfy the requirement to show how the driveway would go along here? I mean, normally, often we'll ask for an engineered roadway, but is that what we're asking for here?
well, I mean, at a bare minimum, if we, even if it were just the front, for purposes of just accepting this in the first instance, if they showed a proposed building envelope with proposed driveway, like that could conceivably go on each of these lots, that would give us that minimum information that we can make sure we're not approving a subdivision where someone's gonna come back later and not be able
Need a
to
variance in order.
put on
to-
a house because of the wetland impact.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I see. So I think you could, he could choose certainly, or the applicant could choose to have the alternative with the driveway and a proposed
And then
lot
they'd have
back.
to go through the
But I
engineering
don't think they
process
would-
to put in the.
but I don't think they- yeah.
The wetland requirements.
Right, but I don't think they would need that if they could show it in the front area and they could put it on the plan and show us there is one option there, cause then if they came back for a variance and we have two spots, we just wanna be in the back,
Right.
they wouldn't get it.
Any other items that we should be looking for?
I'll just, if it's helpful, I'll just walk through the 6.4 and 6.5, which are the requirements
It's actually
for
on the application too.
subdivision plats and minor subdivision. plan. We can-
That's one of the problems with the application also is that they're using the old checklist. And the old checklist, because we're in the middle of approving the new checklist, if they were using the new checklist, I think some of these problems could have been avoided. I did mention this at the last meeting, but we didn't have a quorum and we didn't meet. So I did mention it, in a discussion with, the administrative secretary, and she assured me that her and the land use agent was gonna review the application to make sure that everything was there. But we're comparing apples and oranges here.
Yeah,
And the land use administrator did review it, did flag for me that we don't have, for example, the rectangle shown on the map, and that's where I
Okay,
want
I
to.
wasn't privy to that, so
That's fair.
I
So,
apologize.
if it's all right, and it'll just take a few minutes, but I'm just gonna go through these, and I want everyone to, so if there is other information we're missing, we can flag it now, so we're not saying come back with information X and then later asking for more. So starting 6.43, the plat shall show will be accompanied by the following title block, the lower right hand corner with name, address, tax map, lot number, date of plan, date of revisions, sheet number, applicant name, owner name, address, email, phone. B, date of survey, error of closure, name and legal description of subdivision, locus maps superimposed on the town tax map at appropriate scale. Showing relation of the proposed subdivision to existing streets and surrounding property within 200 feet. Name of owner of record and subdivider and graphic scale. C, tract boundary lines, right-of-way lines of streets, street names, easements, park areas, all lot lines with accurate dimensions. Where are we here? Sorry. Error of closure. Compass and tape. Where are we at? Alright, D, shape, size, height, dimensions, location, and use of existing and proposed structures. And that's part of what we already covered, located on the site and those existing within 200 feet of the site. Wetland boundaries delineated by a certified wetland scientist. I see we've got the stamp from Jessica Bailey, 9/22/2025. Location of any existing or proposed easements and their legal documents. And then minor subdivision plat. Existing natural man-made features. Streams, ponds, standing water, rock ledges, boulders, stone walls, fences, foliage lines, impervious surfaces, natural man-made site features. 3, soils and steep slopes more than 15 and 25%. for proposals with new roads, soil maps with identification, classification, and delineation of soil types. Identification of existing and proposed access to the site with dimensions shown, site distance. That relates to the access point to the 3 building envelopes that are not currently specifically shown, but more important for 8.1.
Eight is probably has the same issue.
Which one am I looking at? Oh, I see, yeah, there's, right, a portion of the lot that is not accessible without crossing a wetland, but a larger portion of the front, but same thing, so show the proposed area and it can be big and the access road.
So we have topographical lines on here, but I don't see, I'm assuming that some of this must be more than 15%.
So
It's steep in there.
I didn't see, and this would be helpful, but I didn't see a scale for the topographical lines. Although it may have said 2 foot, I was having trouble reading the.
You can discern it
topographical
from
data.
the numbers.
Alright. Location of existing and proposed wells with well radius and septic systems on the site within 200 feet of the site.
I think they're 10
They're
foot
10.
lines.
No, I think they do.
I guess as that relates to,
No, we don't know.
as it relates to 8 and 8.1, where there's the presence of wetlands, we need them to show that there is a potential, there is sufficient area that they can put a septic without interfering with the wetland.
Right, number 9.
Is this the new checklist or the old checklist? 'Cause
This-
we drew it to the old checklist.
This is not from the checklist, this is
The problem
from,
is we have new regulations.
No, but we have an ordinance that.
this is from the subdivision regulations.
Yeah,
Which you can see right on our website,
Views, of course.
yep.
yeah.
Number 9
So-
is the well and the septic.
So about this,
Well,
the
septic.
septic, isn't aren't subdivisions over 5 acres exempt from that? The assumption being that if there's more than 5 acres, there's going to be there's adequate septic land,
That's how this is how it has been
Through state subdivision.
in the
I-
past.
Yeah, but that's not in the new regs.
It may be, I guess my bigger concern is that there are very large lots, but at least one that, based on how they're showing, has enough unique features that sort of calls in where we wanna make sure we're doing our due diligence, that they can put that in on that middle piece. 10, size and location of all existing and proposed water, sewer, culverts, connections for water supply and disposal of sewage and surface drainage. That's as it relates to any access ways. 11, fire protection measures. 12, description and location of any solar, wind, or other types of on-site power generations, that wouldn't apply. 13, existing or proposed fences, walls, or vegetative buffers. 14, fire lanes, fire access, emergency access as required by the fire department. I think we're on a town road, so it's not an issue for this one. 15 is a letter stating agreement by the public utilities to serve the site. 16, any other exhibits or data the planning board may require to adequately evaluate the proposed subdivision. So, big ones to me were the building envelope and access,
Yeah.
and particularly to 8 and 8.1, where they, despite their large size, have limits towards the back where they're gonna run into the wetlands that are delineated on the plan.
So, Mr. Chairman, just a question.
Yes,
What's the point of showing the wetlands and the setback lines if not to show where the building envelope is? I'm being very, very serious. We do feel that these building envelopes aren't shown adequately on plans like this. Certainly on 12.5 plus acre lots, which need not be brought through the state subdivision approval process because they're far greater than 5 acres. they're shown on 100 scale plans, which is why the 2-foot topo looks so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so we ended up only able to label every 10. So these are in fact 2-foot contours, but at 100 scale, it's just impossible to properly show. Which, and the contours themselves also reflect whether it's 15% or not. To go ahead and hatch these things with a 15% hatch would make these plans unreadable. And the board would have more questions.
Yeah, so I didn't hear any sort of feedback on that point, that we're looking for a different scale on the topography. I think you've heard my issue. I've seen dozens of subdivision plans. I've never seen one that I can recall that didn't have a proposed building envelope. And it doesn't have to be the exact envelope that someone comes, but that the planning board has this obligation that once that subdivision happens, you know, things change, including even wetland location, that there had to be in the first instance, and we had to be satisfied that there is a sufficient area to put in an access road and a building to use that residential use.
There's no road here. We're not building a road.
I say access road.
It's a
Driveway
It's a driveway.
is the same thing. Like, there's a
Not gonna require
million,
engineering, we're not gonna do engineering, the homeowners will
That's-
not do engineering. Once he sells these 3 lots to different homeowners, they're not required to do engineering, other than come in for a building permit.
I understand that. Access road, you know, I think you've been doing this a long time. In New Hampshire law, the word private road, driveway, all mean essentially the same thing. So all I'm saying is there needs to be sufficient access to the proposed building lot. So if it's in the front, right, it's not that big of a deal if I'm looking at this plan. If turns out that there's not sufficient space to get one in that front, then it's more important to make sure for us that they would be able to have an access way that would get to the rear of the lot. So other than that, it looks like all the information that I think we would need is on the plan. We have the wetland delineation, we have the boundaries, we have the topography, we have the frontage and the dimensions, all the other pieces that we went through that I think we would need to decide on a residential subdivision. It's just that one piece. Is there, happy to hear contrary opinions, happy to hear any additional issues that anyone sees.
I just wanna make sure there's a building envelope somewhere, so the ZBA doesn't have to deal with it sometime down the road.
Okay. What,
And that Canterbury rectangle basically solves that problem, is that true?
well, I think, let me pull that back up. I don't think that one made an exception for, in 4.2, wetland, like areas you can't. In computing, I'm sorry. This is for computing minimum lot depth and width. It's not on the minimum acreage part that requires you to accept wetlands. So it's in computing minimum lot depth and width, each lot must contain a rectangle where the sides parallel to the front boundary equal or exceed the lot width requirement. I think the main part of that requirement is that you don't end up with a like an irregular shaped lot.
Yeah, I agree.
And these, I don't see any concern. It would be nice to have that on the plan just because it is a requirement. I would, in this case, would be fine waiving that requirement if we have the other piece, which is show us that there's on the plan the proposed building envelope with driveway access. All right,
I think the other thing is it's supposed to be location of the proposed well and.
right,
a
sorry, I
septic.
lost track of that.
So there are other things.
Does in 8-2, the fact that there's a flood zone in the, toward the southwest corner, does that create similar problems? You know, is there, well,
I think,
is there a building, that's the same question, I guess.
or if that kind of goes more towards the merits when we're looking at the specific lots, maybe.
Well, it's the same,
But
I still wanna see a building envelope.
fair point, I think on particularly 8.1, and showing that there could be a septic area without impacting the wetlands that look like they circle that entire front portion or front towards the road portion of the lot.
And it's awful steep, so it's,
Well, you can't tell, it's so weird.
you can't tell, but,
Such a small,
but I think if you
Yeah,
take
there's some
in,
sections that are steep and some that are
yeah.
fairly reasonable, it looks.
Any problem if I open up to public comment before we take a vote on accepting,
Yes.
not accepting, and
I do,
list?
accept it first and then public comments.
Your position's noted. Any problem from the board with me opening it to public comments before we decide whether or not to accept the application for having sufficient fees?
No objections.
This was a notice public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who has anything that they wanna comment on this?
I have a
Yeah.
question.
Just-
If this tract of land has wetlands on each of the proposed subdivision lots, is it still the purview of the town road agent to decide where driveways can go because of visibility and, what do you call it? Line of vision or whatever you call it. I know that's been an issue on our road, so I'm just thinking, if you divide a piece of property and then you're talking about placing 3 driveways and there's wetlands, it means you can't put a driveway necessarily where there's a good line of vision, so does the paperwork that you have show that that's a possibility for each of these lots?
So I think that sort of goes to the merits, what we'd ultimately want to decide, and that's why I think it's important that we see where the proposed, like where a proposed building envelope could go with the driveway, so that we can see if there's a potential issue with that. I think if we see that on this plan, then we would have the information to look at, oh, there's an issue here with, the potential access way and the wetlands.
So does the town road agent have to make that decision before you can approve it?
So,
No.
I'm sorry, that's
That's.
getting ahead.
I'm just.
Yeah, I don't think so, but that's sort of the after the,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm just curious, cause,
no problem, thank you.
thank you.
Alright.
May I?
Oh, yeah, sorry, didn't see you behind.
That's okay. I'm just curious whether there's visible pins where all those boundary lines intersect Baptist Hill Road that I could go look at and see?
Yeah,
And what would they be marked with?
The front pins have not been set
I
yet.
said, yeah.
Right now, they're currently to be set, pending the outcome of this board.
Are they flagged?
They may be flagged, the rear pins are set, the irons are in the ground. The front corners, and we also are showing the PCs and PTs, the points of curvatures and points of tangencies of Baptist Hill. So there's over 7 bounds that need to be set. So that's over a day and a half worth of work, so we have not done that based on, I need to wait for the outcome here first.
There's a lot
That's
of
understood.
flags on this area. Just happened to, when I walked by, there's a lot of
It's a
flags.
big
Yeah.
survey, it was a big survey, and there was a lot going on that piece of property.
And the road there, I think, is steep, isn't that where where it goes uphill?
Yes. Mr. Ekstrom owns 2 pieces of land, this is the good one.
Alright,
What's wrong with the other one?
Nothing's wrong with it.
alright. Guess we're good on public comment. I think I would take a motion to not approve or to not accept the application for missing the as shown on the plan, a potential proposed building envelope with driveway access, from which we would then have the information to decide.
And you're just talking about completeness.
For completeness and
well, and so,
the potential viable location of well and septic, or again, as we're looking at completeness for this particular application, I don't know that it matters as we look at 8.2, where you don't have that same wetland concern, but 8.1, does
Well,
anyone have a
flood-
concern
flood
with
zone
8 and 8.1?
8 and 8.1.
Sorry, what's the question again, Brendan?
Whether or not the board feels we need, and it's under the list of normal requirements, the location of proposed well and septic. And I understand that this is not a subdivision with like a current proposal, but we do need to see that a septic and well could go on the lot. So to me, the two more concerning ones are the ones that have the sort of circle of wetland that's kind of trapping the front part of the lot away from the back part. But I don't have the concern with 8.2 in terms of having to require that on a plan.
I move we do not
Sure.
accept this as
Hold on.
complete for that reason.
Can I ask a question before you do a motion?
Yeah.
You said that there was an email from the administrative assistant regarding the incompleteness of the application. You identified some things. Can you share what else it was that she identified?
I think it was just that we don't have the Canterbury rectangle that shown on the plan, which is from 5.2. Am I
Okay, well,
missing
there
anything?
are other things also, because it doesn't show the proposed well within the 75-foot well radius, so there are other things, so they didn't, and that's the problem that I have with this application is that they used the old checklist.
And we can, I
And
think,
they
certainly
did-
get to that later tonight when we're talking about the checklist.
And they use the new regulations, and they don't jive.
Yeah.
Because the old checklists were from some woefully insufficient land use regulations. We have since upgraded the land use regulations, and we are in the process of providing checklists to make it easier to navigate the regulations. So you can use the checklist to go down through.
To that point, test pits aren't required.
No, we don't need to test pits.
Not saying test pits.
The question, that I bring that up, he keeps mentioning he wants to see where valid septics can be placed, and how can you put that on there without requiring the applicant to do test pits, is not right.
The regulations ask for the location of existing and proposed wells with a 75-foot well radius and septic systems on the site and within 200 feet of the site.
So I guess the
That's what's required for a subdivision. And it's not so much whether it's there, it's whether there's room for it.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
so
only
that if you
constraint-
subdivide it and somebody buys that piece of land and then they come back to us and they say, we can't put a septic on this. So if you have a proposed where it could be, okay,
Yeah.
that's the difference.
It's fine. It'll be constrained by the location of the wetlands, which is certified, and the location of the county soil map, which would identify any ledge outcrops.
So long as it fulfills our rules and regulations.
Fair enough.
alright. I'll read back what I think the two pieces, so. A motion to not accept for being complete, and then the two things that we are flagging for the information that we would need to accept the application are a potential proposed building envelope with access road for the 3 lots and potential location for septic and well on 8 and 8.1 that is outside of the wetlands. Does that fairly sum up what we've discussed? Okay.
So,
Is anyone willing to make that motion?
I am.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Alright, any discussion or further discussion on the motion? Alright. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, so the motion carries.
Do we have a requirement on the scale of these drawings? Cause I think this, it doesn't comply, so you might wanna have a waiver. I mean, I think this is good enough for my purposes. Have a waiver on the scale. Ready to go.
I think I'll be going through the new rules and the old rules. Are the new rules available at the office?
They're also online,
They're online.
Town of Canterbury
Yep.
Planning Board, It's the land use regulations, and if you go down, there's section 6.4 and 6.5 on subdivisions and minor subdivision.
The checklists are for convenience, okay? And the checklists that they're still providing are, they're giving them to the public, which maybe they shouldn't, apply and reference the old regulations. We have the new regulations.
Yes, the
We have a public hearing tonight on the checklist, on the new checklist.
Yeah, so they might be approved to that,
So they'll be approved tonight, most
and
likely.
hopefully make things easier.
but the land use regulations are not gonna change, they're publicly available on the website.
Right.
Now, informally, because we're closed, site distance, is that something that the board has seen before as far as site distance profiles for frontage subdivisions? Or is this new?
You mean, what,
The DPW director or road agent on that road, which is 30-mile-an-hour road, should have what, 250-foot site distance requirements?
Probably.
Do you, the board, want to see these profiles?
you don't care.
No,
That's not how.
that's not
how-
our purview.
Right,
Belmont does, Guilford sometimes does, Northfield maybe, I don't recall. That's why I asked.
If
You've
you,
mentioned it several times tonight, and it's not in your regs or in the checklist.
yeah, if you feel it's helpful for us when we get to the merits for the application we resubmit, certainly we're happy to look at it. I don't think anyone's saying that as a matter of completeness that we require it, and then we
I
can,
understand, yeah, but as far as the merit of the actual application.
It might help.
But you, yeah,
We don't object to additional information.
I understand, but there's also no requirements or regulations listed to meet. It's not like state of New Hampshire has a 400-foot site distance on state roads. And so it becomes a very gray area. Okay.
Well, the road at the top of that hill has sight distance of about 3 feet.
Oh,
It's terrible.
I'm fully aware, which is why we're coming in with this north side of the road right now,
Yeah.
and not the south side. Mr. Ackerstrom was informed of that when I showed up on site, and I said, Mark, we'll be back on this one later.
Yeah.
Okay,
understood, thank
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.
Sight distance.
maybe we
Alright,
should require
let's not talk about that application now that we've closed that piece. Alright, next up is the solid waste management chapter of the master plan. It was, reposted on the website, so you can see it for this meeting. Minutes, agenda, 12:09, let's pull mine up. So, I believe when we finished going through the last 3 pages, there were only 5 of us, but I'm blanking on which 2 people weren't here, but, so this is the public hearing portion on chapter 9. Cal, I'm not mistaken on that, we finished, we set it for a public hearing, so the notice went out, or is this, us confirming that everyone's good and setting the public hearing?
This is the public hearing.
This is the public hearing, okay, good, I am on the right page. So, any final changes or suggestions, and we'll open it up to the public at that point, and then we are free to adopt it and add it to the master plan.
I had a very minor question. On page 3, it says the transfer station accepts clean brush that is burned. And I don't understand, that means you burn it first and then you bring it? Or is there should be a comma after the word brush?
We could do comma which, just to make it clear,
That sounds
say
grammatically more.
non-substantive change, which is good too.
In fairness to the typos and the grammar on the set master plan, we spent hours on all the chapters.
Yeah.
And hours, and hours, and going over them again, and repeating ourselves. So you can look at typos in the grammar in these documents.
Well, if we see them, we should catch them.
Yeah.
There's an author I really like, and he had this good quotes. Like you never actually finish writing something. You just choose to stop
Right.
editing it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So, Cal, did you pick up that change?
Yeah.
Brush, comma, which, perfect. Also, I really liked the pictures that you guys obtained, so that's great.
yeah, a
That
lot
was,
better.
Beth Blair, I think, got sent me the photos.
Nice.
I maybe found another sentence that I can't discern what it means on page 4.
Yes, which is,
The 1, 2, 3 paragraphs, on the second paragraph under the title upgrades, the last sentence, it includes and, I think that probably should be and not
and analysis.
analysis of small a copy of this report, comma, attached in the appendix, I think. is
Why can I
probably
not
what-
find this page? This sentence.
I have it right here if you want it.
Oh, I'm looking at the one that was posted for the meeting, and that was already corrected, so.
What does
It says it
say?
includes an analysis of cost options on the one that I'm looking at.
I remember that when we made that change.
That's not the same thing.
Oh,
Great.
I don't know where, okay. Yeah, we're looking at the one that was emailed out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
That
not in
correction
the,
is not-
yeah,
interesting.
How about in
Listen-
that
Do you have
graph,
a date stamp
for the
on your
bar
graph?
graph, is first bar say 70, what does it say,
The
71
one in the
and how
email is
many
dated
cents?
10/23, I'm wondering if you're looking at
Cause there was a
newer
typo
one.
there too.
Let's see. Chapter 9, revised 10/30/2025 is
Yeah.
what it says on the website agenda.
Okay.
So
So
10/30.
you're actually looking at a newer revision than
Alright,
is in the
well-
able, which,
The good news though, is that
the
that
good
part was
news is
stopped.
it's fixed, the bad news is the rest of us aren't looking at what you're looking at.
Yes.
so how to correct that, go to the town
What does that-
website.
You're pulling that,
The
yeah,
height
you're
of that
pulling that
blue
off the
bar
website.
say 14, that's correct.
Okay. Alright, a couple people are pulling it up, so I'm just gonna give everyone a minute.
So if I'm on the. I'm gonna look.
Well, when I find it, I will happily tell you.
On page 1.
Go to the planning board page, and then I scroll down to meetings and agendas for December 9th, and then it's under the list of docs for 12/9.
On the bottom
Does someone have
of
a
page
new
1 where it says elements,
Departments.
Yeah.
this part here.
Yeah.
And what's there,
Oh,
Are
we're
the
not
old
a
revisions?
department, we're a board.
so the
or a
new
committee.
sections
Click
have
on
to be
that.
put in there.
Public hearing.
So
notice.
for example, if you flip the page,
Got it.
first thing is survey and
then scroll
results.
down, this is on the website
The
here.
next thing is
here,
Canterbury solid waste disposal.
And then
Oh,
click,
elements is
And
solid
then the next
waste
one should be, say,
management
current
1030.
location.
Yeah. And then open the document.
And then the fourth one should be new challenges and concerns.
Did you guys find it?
Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you.
But, okay, so you'll have a chance, let's open it up, because public hearing portion, see if the public has any comments on this piece, and then we can circle back to it, but certainly the board has discussed this a number of times. So anyone from the public have any comments on the solid waste chapter? You don't wanna,
No,
love it, hate it?
don't know, didn't look at it,
Okay,
thank you.
alright.
It's unlike you.
So then if there's any other things that people caught, happy to correct them, but otherwise we can take a vote to approve
I
and,
just gave one to Cal,
okay?
so,
Write it down.
to share with the board on page 1. At the bottom of page 1, where it says elements,
Mm-hmm.
and where it says solid waste disposal, New Hampshire and Canterbury, and then current status challenges and future recommendations, that should be stricken. All of that.
The whole
And
elements
the
thing?
four new challenge, the elements should be, because we revised
understand.
this and it's been
Yeah.
edited.
That's a good catch.
The first one is survey and results on page 2. The second element is Canterbury solid waste disposal, this is on the top of 9.3.
got it.
On the top of 9.4 is current location. And then the fourth element should be new challenges and concerns on the right-hand side of 9.4. Those should be the four
That is,
corrected
Basically
elements.
revising that to be consistent with the actual headings.
yes.
This makes sense.
It's a great catch. All right, so in the interest of keeping us moving then, there's nothing else. I look for a motion to adopt chapter 9 for the master plan, subject to the four minor changes that, I think it was four that were
Let's
applied
let
for.
Rich-
Let Rich move it, yeah.
I will move. the
I'll second it.
solid waste
I wasn't
management
making the
chapter.
motion.
I will make a motion that we adopt this, chapter 9, solid waste management.
Yeah.
As amended.
All right, is there a second?
Yes, I second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Excellent. Rich, thank you
Thank you.
so much for all your hard work on
I
that.
know that took you 6 years.
It's painful.
But it's done. And it is, should we say, solid?
I just wanna add that I felt many times that it was inappropriately placed on hold, that there wasn't a lot of opinion and other information. It was straightforward information, contrary to what other people thought. I wrote that over a year ago. And it's been, a long time in approving. Unnecessary long time. I just wanted to add that.
All right. Moving on, the next item on our agenda is the land development regulation checklists. I think it's helpful, we can pull them up one by one. Again, these are on the, you can, I don't recall if they were emailed, but I pull them up from the 12-9 agenda. So starting with minor subdivision checklist draft 4.1.
Okay, I'm looking at what's on the town website.
Yep,
It looks like
It doesn't say
what we have in
draft.
the
Oh,
email.
No, 4.1 is inside. I don't believe they're,
Are we minor?
I got it,
Say
I
it
got it,
again,
I
minor
see, I
it
see it,
says
yeah.
updated October 25 at the
Yep.
top of the document.
Yep,
should, yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, just Joshua, the first one was minor
Subdivision.
subdivision checklist.
Subdivision minor, correct?
Subdivision comma minor application checklist. The good news is we've all
That one,
heard a bunch of these pieces.
Substantively, this hasn't changed as far as I can tell.
not
Only-
not in months.
Yeah,
there were minor changes to this one. So it should be good to go. How do we do this?
I think we just take a motion, so if anyone has any changes, and if they don't, I think
Do
we
we have
just,
to public hearing it? I mean, public comment?
I don't think we
Um,
have to.
well,
It's a regulation,
I
maybe we
think
should.
typically anything we do is that, so we could just call for public comment on all 5 of them at the same time, and if
There you
anyone
go.
has any, then we can move forward with votes on all of them.
I have a question.
Yes,
As
Of
tonight
course.
was a good example, when you have the house in the envelope, typically you assume that there's gonna be a well and a septic in that envelope, cause I know the next subdivision plan is coming next month. It does not have, it has the envelope, but it does not have where septic's going to be.
yeah, so
And I haven't seen any of them in the past have that with.
yeah, I think sometimes we get proposals where someone is planning to build a structure and they show all of that information. And I think it's fair that they could request a waiver in some of these other ones, but there's this catch-all last requirement that the board can ask for any information it wants, so I think there are times and unique lots where it is really important that we see that is shown, even if we don't have a specific plan for where it's gonna go yet. trying to keep my comments focused on your comment and not talk about specifics.
Well, for the checklist that I use,
Yes,
Throw them out.
well, for the next,
hold on. Keep going, sorry.
for the next subdivision application, I'm using the new checklist, and I've already gone through
Okay,
that with this new subdivision. I did not with this one use the new one. Rich had asked that question last, so I'm answering
Last
that
meeting.
question. Did not use the new one, but for the future, if they have the envelope, but your answer to me was each one's unique and you can decide then. I just don't wanna be like, Michelle, you didn't check,
So-
you missed that because it does not have a septic or a well. Because the next subdivision plan coming up does not have that. Do I need to get that form to meet those requirements?
yeah, I think what you can flag for them and what's easy where it's not, you don't have to sort of find out which one's which, is that the new checklist that we would be approving, if we're approving this, says location of proposed wells and septics. And so the applicant either needs to show them or include a waiver request with their application, and then they can discuss it with us as to whether or not it's needed or not needed. Does that make sense? So that's a straightforward, I hope, answer for you, which is the new checklist will say you need to show that. As to the other application you received, I have not yet looked at the plans. I can take a look, and I'll touch base with you
Okay.
after about whether or not you need to go ask them for anything else or whether their plan is fine, but I have a feeling the board's gonna be pretty flexible where the new checklist hasn't been in place and the applicants.
Well, the new checklist says it's, that, you know, it has to have a septic system and the 75-foot radius on it.
Can I make a comment about the checklist?
After Josh, keep going.
Right, so, I don't know if that answers your question, and we can always waive that if the current owner isn't planning on building.
Yeah, I think her second question was that the more recent application showed a building envelope but did not separately show septic and well. Is that my understanding?
But the current, this checklist says that it has to.
Yes, and that's what we'd be adopting, and so then in the future for the town administrative staff, where they don't have to get into specifics, they can say, here's what the application requires, we'll walk through the checklist. If you believe it's not necessary, you can ask the board for a waiver, and that sort of
Right.
takes the discretion away, okay? Rich, do you have a comment?
To reiterate, these checklists are using the new regulations, and the new regulations can be very cumbersome and tedious because there's a lot of information and sometimes, pardon the saying, but they're overkill.
Yeah.
And it can be a lot, but they were put in place to protect the town. So that if we get into a heavy duty subdivision or a site plan, there are regulations that aren't needed for every type of, you know, an average walk-in subdivision. They're designed so that they're simple, you can go down through and there's a place where you can check off, and whether it's provided, the item is provided, you can check off. If there's a waiver that's needed, you can circle that. And if you're not sure about something, there's a place for staff to put some notes. Like if you got a question about something, not really sure if that's it or whatever, you can take and put that. So that when this comes in with the application, there's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of checklists and there's a lot of information. But on page right here, you know, regarding the septic and the well, it's on the checklist, and it's kind of, you could catch that by just going through item by item on the checklist. Does that make sense?
I've used the checklist and I think that it's very helpful, so I agree with what you're saying,
The new ones?
the new one,
Okay.
and it
We tried to design them so that they would be useful as, some, you know,
it's caught a couple things already, so
Yeah.
it's good.
Alright, any,
you're gonna be the first person to see problems with it, so, and nothing's
But-
perfect, there will be problems, so.
Yeah, and come back to the board
back
with,
to
you know,
us.
what the problems are, so that we can tweak them, so we can fix them, so that, because they're intended to be useful.
I have notes already,
Okay,
so be ready.
good.
Alright, any other public comment on any of the application checklists? Any of the 5, alright. Any specific board comments on the one that we had just pulled up, or are we good to, we just maybe talk about the next one, we'll go through all 5 and then we'll take a vote to approve all 5?
Sounds good.
Anyone have anything they wanna talk about? The next one, I'm just going in the order that was here, was the minor site plan checklist.
That one was pretty straightforward, we didn't have any changes to it.
Hearing none, anyone
Great.
have anything they wanna talk about with the major site plan, sorry, major subdivision checklist? Skip that.
These underwent extensive revisions. There were parts that were missing, because it is a major subdivision, so we're talking 4 or more parcels. There are a lot of protections in place under the, major requirements and the supporting documents, the 6.6 and 6.7 were in there. So if you don't know what those are, I would suggest you look at them. But there are a lot of things in place. This is the heavy duty one that
Yeah.
the town would see.
Yes. Alright, I mean, these all look great to me, I'm
Look
just
good.
making sure that we're taking an opportunity at each one in case anyone has anyone, so. 4th was major site plan checklist.
Good.
I know people are pulling them up and scrolling, so I'm just gonna give a minute. Alright, and then the last one is the checklist for, it said, other applications, but the 3 that you'll see in there is design review, conceptual plan review, and voluntary lot merger.
So these are much simpler.
Alright, hearing none, so, Greg and Rich, thank you so much for all of your help, and, I mean, this was, you guys have been working on this for a long time. Long time coming, I like they're simplified and streamlined, so if we can get a motion to approve the 5 checklists, we're gonna take a vote on that, and then,
A motion that we approve the 5 checklists to help with the new land use regulations.
alright. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Excellent. Capital improvement plan. Whoops.
That one went out 6 years.
Do we have to close the public hearing, or?
Sort of as I moved on, I think each one is closed. And that's why, after we closed it and the 208 one after he left, why I was saying we can't keep commenting on that specific one.
Does anybody need a paper copy of the capital improvement plan?
Oh, I've got it here somewhere.
And then,
Actually, I wanna go over that anyway, to determine how it's set up.
It is cold in here.
674.5.
Are there particular areas we should be focusing our attention on?
Yeah, that's where I was gonna, had this all pulled up for
Cal, could I have
authorization.
a paper copy, please?
Somehow I've lost it.
Our concern with the CIP isn't necessar, I mean, in my opinion, not necessarily what it says. And I know that's useful for the town administering the town generally and setting taxes and all that. But for us, its existence is important because you can't have, what do you call them, alternative land use.
Innovative land use
Yeah,
plans.
which we have, without having a CIP. So, even if it was gobbledygook, I think it
Sure.
would suffice for
Well,
our
it's
purpose.
kind of
Right.
hence my question, like, what about this should I be paying attention?
Well, it's okay, so I was just gonna go real quick through the part on
Other than
authorization,
analysis.
which maybe helps orient,
Okay.
and Josh is correct that it's not an effect or purpose of the things, there's a line in this about it, but it enables other things, so, if you have adopted a master plan, the local legislative body may authorize the planning board to prepare and amend a recommended capital improvement project for a period of at least 6 years. It may encompass major projects being currently undertaken or future projects to be undertaken. The sole purpose and effect of the capital improvement program shall be to aid the selectmen and budget committee in their consideration of the annual budget. So that's sort of the core part of it, and then it operates as a requirement under innovative land use controls. So
Yeah.
if there's,
And arguably, or maybe we've been out of compliance for a long, long time.
and when we first got this, we did go through and talk about the specific pieces in a bit of detail.
It was Mike, right? Was it
Yeah,
Mike?
I think when, and Ken was here and
Yeah.
walked through part of it. So I don't have any major concerns, but if anyone wants to talk about like particular areas or topics, otherwise I'm fine just approving this and then the selectmen and the budget committee can go forth.
I'll move that we approve it.
I think Scott could probably update, 'cause I think there's been a lot of changes, watching the select board meetings and the budget meetings and stuff, there have been a lot of renditions to this.
There have, so, probably one of the bigger ones is the movement of the loader from one year to the next. And that was after a discussion with the road agent, who feels he can get 2 more years out of the loader,
So
so.
it's shown in 2027 now.
That is correctly shown in 2027 now, yeah.
Okay.
And we have not finalized the budget yet for 2026. So one of the items we're discussing is whether we're going to be able to purchase a new patrol vehicle for the police department in next year's budget, so. At this point, it is still in, but, it's under discussion.
That's the $67,000.
That is correct, yeah.
They are indeed.
And I suppose the only other thing worth mentioning is you'll see, is it next year for the highway department, there should be a waste oil furnace for $20,000. We're actually investigating whether we are going to be allowed by the state to purchase that. There's a possibility that we can't burn waste oil in our public facilities, so we're checking on that as well.
I might wanna put it on my house.
Alright,
Alright.
Shoot.
Has there been anything added as a result of the Aries report?
Not at this point.
Okay.
No. It's under discussion.
And just as a reminder, we can sort of retake up the capital improvement plan at any point if the planning board feel there needs to be additional major projects, or if the selectmen flag projects and want us to review to new things, so it's not, we're not stuck with this document for 6 years if we wanna make changes.
Yeah, it's
So,
supposed to be a living document, I think.
alright.
Sure.
Is there a motion to approve the capital improvement plan?
Motion to approve the capital improvement plan.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
I
Aye. All opposed? And so that passes. Where are we at? Capital improvement plan.
article third-party review process.
Do warrant article process. I don't think there's any-
Cal, I wasn't sure, is this something that you or Scott had flagged? I know that the part of this was that warrant articles will go to outside counsel to review, and so that's part of why.
No, this is something that Greg requested,
Yeah, Greg.
at a previous meeting, I'm not sure if it was the
Yeah,
last
so,
one.
we've talked
Oh,
about it a
yeah,
couple
sorry,
times.
I'm getting confused,
Oh.
sorry.
So I think we've had recent experience where warrant articles have not been, or ordinances haven't been written as carefully as we wish they have been written. Although they have been carefully reviewed by Central Regional Planning and Town Attorney. So things are falling through the cracks. But I've thought about this a lot, and I think there's a bigger or a different kind of problem. As Brendan has pointed out, we've learned from experience, it's very difficult, and we have learned from experience that it's very difficult to write a good ordinance. And as we have noted numerous times, no ordinance is perfect. Of course, we should always try to make our ordinances better, but there's also a tension between our responsibility to uphold the ordinance and fiscal responsibility as citizens. Understanding this is critical if we to have an effective ordinance. My first experience of this was as chair was when an applicant refused to accurately label a site plan and came to a hearing with a lawyer. I discussed this with town administration, and it was suggested that the board find a way to approve it. I naively asked how the board can approve something that doesn't comply with the ordinance. The answer is, the courts give planning boards great discretion on interpretation of their ordinance. And it is very rare for courts to rule against the board based on interpretation. New Hampshire Municipal Association and the Regional Planning Commission confirm that the courts grant this discretion. They also cite several decisions that uphold planning boards' use of the discretion in support of the intention of the ordinance, so it can work both for approval and for denial. A little over a year ago, I requested that town council review our ordinance specifically for defensibility. The response came back that our ordinance is in good shape and there is nothing to worry about. Defensibility and the budget and the will to defend are very different things. I cannot recall an instance in the last 40 years where an applicant came to the board with a lawyer and was not granted their application. A drug treatment facility was approved by calling it a school because they are trying to educate people not to use drugs. A recreational psychedelic nature experience business was approved by calling it a church. Avoiding the legal cost is the deciding factor for these approvals. And the applicant knows this. The applicant's job is to come in with what Jim Bassett calls smoke. Things like, oh, it's just too complicated and confusing, to create doubt and uncertainty so that planning board members can find some justification why the ordinance allows the project or the ordinance isn't applicable so they can approve it. It's a charade, but not unusual for small New Hampshire towns with limited resources. It even seems necessary for fiscal responsibility. So the result of the way we administer our ordinance is that the bullies with money and lawyers get to do what they want, and everyone else has to live with it. This is precisely what planning ordinances are supposed to prevent. And there's an opportunity cost as well. For example, Bob Drew was trying to develop a retirement community like the Spruces, where the drug treatment facility is. The drug treatment center came in with lawyers and that was approved, so we lost 15 units of single-level retirement homes. Of course, we should improve the details of our ordinance, but it does not solve the problem. Here are a couple ideas that may help, and I'm really interested in what other people think about this and what they think might help. Anything that reduces the size of projects that could possibly come to this board so that there isn't the big payout that will pay for the lawyers. Possibly repeal the cluster development conditional use completely. These forms were developed to allow flexibility. Our small staff and the fiscal restraints prevent us from adequately managing them. Maybe a legal reserve fund. And at least not vote unanimously to approve, so applicants know there's some pushback and that hopefully keep their applications more reasonable. So I'm really interested what other people think.
Sorry, I was trying to take, you said reduce size of project appeal cluster. I think we have certainly large, generally large, minimum lot size road frontage requirements, which is sort of your frontline prospective, right? You fix your ordinance in advance, but requirement that seeks to minimize the amount that someone, if we're looking at subdivision in terms of size. The cluster ordinance, I think I sent in a draft to repeal it, which is on the
Yes, I saw
agenda
that.
for later.
Yeah,
We can, I think there's room to revisit cluster and bring it back. I think that ordinance had some issues and we maybe don't have the time to properly vet and discuss all of them, but you can set certain things, like that's an incentive to allow people. But if we had set it like your baseline density, if you're gonna cluster as opposed to having a normal subdivision at like half what you could get in terms of acreage. And then you put in a lot of the, what are we actually care about for bonus density incentives, and make sure that we're not just listing ones that other people have, where maybe the town itself doesn't really care about certain ones more than others. Like the open space matters a lot more to me than community well and some of the others. And so if we wanna control how someone develops the land, you provide a path where the only good way through it is the way you want them to. And it is difficult, but I think, right, if we had even a similar cluster ordinance where the starting point was much lower, then their expectation is lower. You have more bonus density options that would maybe even only at, max get you to like 75% of what the total amount is. And then you see them, they have that incentive where every lot, particularly the end lots, are so valuable, they really wanna work to meet those, and you have more control.
But you don't wanna make it so that you, insofar as we prefer cluster, you don't wanna make it so that it disincentivizes cluster.
Right. But I mean, there's some lots, and I think what you'll see is like the cluster lets you out of road frontage. And road frontage is actually right now the biggest bar to development. And so if you're gonna allow someone to cluster where they're getting away from the road frontage requirement, I think what we learned through this process is the town wants to see smaller residential developments. And so if we're gonna let them out of the road frontage, give them a much lower starting point, so they still have this option where they can set the cluster back, then you don't have, maybe a curb cut every single one, but it's a much smaller.
So that's where the leverage is in the road frontage?
That's the main reason I think people come for the cluster.
That's the big advantage.
And that's sort of the carrot to get them in, but we didn't really have I think the rest of our goals laid out in advance in a way that we could direct the development. Or at least that's how I saw it. So
Part of one of the real drivers for the cluster was trying to get away from the houses every 300 feet on the road and preserve some of our viewscapes. Which means that then we have to be regulating siting. And we've also talked a lot about the farmstead development kind of thing looking appropriate for Canterbury, and that means regulating design. And this board, in all the time I have been here, has no will or interest in really regulating design or siting.
So, yeah, I think design is a hard one where your origin is the police power. But when you tie design to something like bonus density, where you start them lower and then give them an option, and that option is the planning board has to approve of the specific designs, then you have we can say no to one or two more units if you don't give us the look that we want. And the ordinance is written in that way where like you have that direct control. But as you know, as Hillary knows, and going back 10 years, that all the times I've sort of been on and off the board, talk about the town kind of has a vision, but then the developer comes in and they say, you know, how can I navigate through? And they are always profit driven, and they are not going to some developers will have an interest in just making a nicer development, but by and large, you can't control it. You have to plan for the worst case scenario. You have to plan, like when everyone was upset when we passed the campground ordinance, and we're like, well, someone could come in and put in a 70-unit campground, and our ordinance doesn't say anything about it right now. Like, you're maybe not the target, and you know, think about that worst case scenario. So,
Can I make a comment?
tons,
I agree with writing things for more boundaries, stricter control. I will say when we had the meeting, I forget who Mike brought in, that gentleman that was from some
New
sort of
Hampshire housing.
Housing, yeah.
Yes. I had a side conversation with Mike about how the cluster development was written, and he said, you know, well, I prefer carrots and flexibility, and I said, I prefer cudgels in this case. So just a note of our reliance on central New Hampshire regional planning, if that is their stance, they're going to help us write and develop in that stance if we're gonna continue to have them review our things.
Yeah, so I think New Hampshire housing is separate from Central New Hampshire regional planning, but we definitely want to consider when a proposal comes in, who's the source. And there was even the proposed solar ordinance that I think I had some concerns with that was proposed to us. It's not that I'm opposed to allowing solar and letting it in, it's that knowing it came from one particular industry group and it was the rural development. I don't know enough about solar where I can predict all the ways that that ordinance is written in a way to help them, and that's what gives me pause. It is nice, we can't always do it, but it is nice when we can find other towns that have versions of what we wanna do, because we can at least ask them, have you had anyone apply and try to do X and how did it go? But if cluster is eliminated, at least short term, someone can only come in and get a subdivision if they have enough road frontage for every single lot they wanna build, which is a hard requirement, and they have the minimum acreage, which is less hard for most of the zoning map in town. But that's sort of your biggest piece, and then barring any state regulation to kind of strip us of more and more of those. So I think the zoning ordinance is pretty protective as a starting point for subdivision, and then if we wanna use the experience and not learn a lesson from what we had to just go through to come up with, can we come up with a cluster ordinance that is lower net density, that is written in a way that gives the board a lot more like black and white control over certain things, and that uses some carefully targeted bonus density for things that we actually want, as opposed to New Hampshire housing, which just wants to see more housing.
Yeah, and to be clear, that came from like Central New Hampshire Planning
Oh,
Commission.
sorry.
That was just at the, I was noting the
Gotcha,
event
sorry, I was
where
thinking
we were
the
talking
guest
about
speakers
that.
who you're referring to.
No, and I know that we use them to review
But-
our ordinance.
I felt like that guest speaker was 20 years out of date. What he was talking about was just in some other era.
Yeah, and
But that conversation was with
Yeah.
Mike.
gotcha, yeah, and I think that's absolutely fair, and I also, when I look at the bigger developed areas in New Hampshire, every suburb, a budding town is not the same, right? Even something like Nashua, which has really big towns like Merrimack and Hudson are all nearby, they have Hollis, which has preserved super rural farming community, large lot sizes. We don't have to have the same development goals that Boscawen and Chichester and Bow and some of these other places have. We're probably more similar to Chichester, not similar to Boscawen and Bow, and I forget where technically it butts, but some of those other bigger ones that have.
Well, I
road.
think, are you talking about things like, let's say, increase, road frontage to 400 feet and increase, lot sizes to 10 or 15 or 20 acres? We can do that.
We could.
Is that what we're talking about?
I don't know that we need to change the default right now. Or at least I haven't heard anyone. town complaint about the road frontage amount, I mean, this is trying to speak too much, we just saw an application for a 40-acre lot where because of road frontage, they could only propose 3 lots.
Yeah.
Like that sort of fits the density in my mind, at least what I see in Canterbury. So anyway, I think they're great ideas to keep in mind. Were there other ones that you specifically wanted to talk about? I really do wanna revisit cluster at some point and see if we can use.
Right, and I'm
Incentives to
I'm
control.
not expecting anything,
And
this is a much bigger picture and longer term than tonight and this year's warrant articles. I think another part that relates to this is the business uses in the non-commercial areas and how they can, because of the amount of money involved, they can force things that are not permitted in the table of uses.
Yeah.
They come in and they say, we're gonna do it anyway, and
So
they're allowed.
we had this funny conversation where we looked at the table of uses and there were some where it says like you have a definition for something and it's not allowed anywhere and we're like, well, why do we keep that? And part of it is when I had a client who has a proposed use that they want and I'd look at their table of uses and there's not like an obvious one that my proposal fits that. I would look at everything else that was any bit close to my proposed use and then I would try to come up for arguments to fit that business into one of those other examples. This is like your easiest way through the ordinances. I am allowed, your ordinance is kind of ambiguous and that gives me some leverage with challenging you. So if there's specific things in town that we don't want, adding them to the table of uses and either allow them in one spot or no spots removes that ambiguity. It's sort of like all the litigation over short-term
Speaking of, I
rentals.
have a definition for data centers, I don't know, it's real tricky, especially with this.
Yeah,
HB 639, I was running over the road with Aaron, he was like, I don't know how you can functionally like prohibit data center and allow crypto mining, it's just not.
Well, let's get to that, but I
Yeah.
thought you did a good job with it.
Oh, thanks, have you read it? You haven't read it?
Yeah,
I think the proposed data center ordinance is on the 12.9,
it's on the.
on the
our-
agenda.
unless that's maybe the old definition, I don't know. Maybe it was a different one.
Maybe I updated it again, I was
Either
trying
way.
to update it to
Okay.
account for this, okay, so I have a new one.
Alright, so I think all great to keep in mind, given the time, do you mind if we move into some of those
No,
warrant articles and we'll
that's
try
what I
to
expected.
keep them in mind and circle back?
Well,
So,
also, I mean, there are some things, it's not far down the road, maybe exit 18 that's a chapter that's already done. But there's a piece of land that's near my house, again, and it stretches all the way from Baptist Hill, goes behind Aberton, and all the way to Shaker Road, it's 188 acres. And
It's got frontage on 3 roads.
it has frontage on 3 roads, it's a huge piece of property. So, you know, the pressure of development it's not,
oh yeah, and it is, and also when people die and there's an estate, the estate has a ethical obligation to maximize the value, which is often selling to developers and not, a single buyer, so there's a lot of that. HB 639,
Well, that's a proposed, right, I'm not sure what we're talking about, other than it's some wingnut in the legislature proposed it, and it takes away municipal discretion to have a crypto mining place. And, we can just cross our fingers and hope the governor doesn't sign it, I guess. But why, other than that, what are we talking about?
Can I speak to that? So the reason that it's been put on the agenda is because there was a request from the Conservation Commission that the planning board and the select board send letters in to the legislature saying that they do not support this. The select board did do that on November 17th, they sent a letter in to the Commerce Committee, cause they're the ones that are currently considering this. Yes.
Is there going to be a public hearing for comment that you know of for this?
So the latest that, this was, I don't know, actually.
Okay.
All-
I'm
I'll
mixing
look
up this one and the other one that we're thinking,
All,
looking at.
all bills have a hearing.
Right, I'm just not sure if that's already passed.
No, this is for next year, like they're just starting to
okay,
consider
so-
it, it's not,
They have an early deadline, cause like the language gets reviewed somewhat.
yeah, so this is a very early preemptive letter, so if you wanna see the letter that the select board wrote, and if you want to decide that you would also like to send a letter, that is basically the question before the board,
Okay.
so pass that
Any opposition on that point, and we'll circle it, but we can postpone this where there's not yet a hearing date and we have some other more imminent, we're hoping to get some warrant articles
Yeah.
moved forward.
I'm for that.
Okay.
Anybody else wanna see this?
Well, we can keep passing, people can look as they go. Alright, so the first one was the one for compliance with ADUs, right?
Does anybody need
Yes.
paper copies?
Please.
Just take a
I got that.
section.
This warrant article for legislative compliance?
Yeah, it concerns ADUs.
I'm just asking for the
Yes,
file name,
yeah,
so I can
yes.
find it in my mail.
We'll take one
Correct.
copy, we'll pass it down in case somebody else needs it.
Oh,
Alright.
Take a whole pack,
Oh,
not just one paper, one pack.
I've
We're
got
just
it.
gonna keep repeating the same thing. Alright, this is a copy of each of them. Thanks, Cal, that's very helpful. Alright,
These are the things we discussed.
Yeah.
Oops, do I have two? There's some stapled parts and then there's some unstapled parts. How does this work?
There's
That's
multiple.
legislative compliance.
these are the other ordinances that we're gonna talk in the rest of the file. Alright, so that first one looked good to me, the ADU one, I didn't flag anything.
You have enough copies there, cause I seem to have extra.
I'll say the only piece we don't have to change the ordinance to account for a statute, but it is super confusing and kind of a disservice to people in town if we don't, where they look at the ordinance and see something that's superseded by state law.
Yeah,
Alright,
seems like we should make the
I'm gonna-
update if there's nothing stopping us from doing so.
while people are reading through that, in case there's anything else, I'll open the public comment portion on, cause each of these is a proposed.
This isn't the public hearing, but the formal public hearing.
Okay, this is the,
This is just you guys deciding,
Right,
is this what you really want?
Final
That way I
language.
can send it to the
Final
lawyer
language.
and we can schedule the actual
Alright.
public hearing in January.
well, anyway, we've got 5 of these, they were on the agenda, does anyone wanna speak to, just while we're looking through the final language, the ADU warrant article? Alright,
As somebody went through the legislation and compared it to our ordinance and redlined it so it's
yes,
accurate, okay.
So which one of these things are we looking at now?
this 2-page one right here.
It says 2.8D.
Got
in
it,
the-
got it.
So I'm the one who did that and it incorporates from 3 different House and Senate bills.
So I had a question about the ADU definition. Because we allow ADUs in the commercial zone in commercial
buildings. And that is not attached to a principal, or it's not, an accessory to a principal dwelling unit. There is no principal dwelling unit.
That's what we have allowed in the past, you mean, or?
Yes, that's what we currently are allowing now, as I understand it. There are a
2.5.1, accessory dwelling unit to business uses. In a commercial zone, a single attached dwelling unit may be allowed as a permitted accessory use to an allowed business.
So attached dwelling unit, so it's not called an ADU? Is it called an ADU?
It says attached dwelling unit. It doesn't say accessory dwelling unit, oh no, it's in the title, accessory dwelling unit to business uses.
So my only question is, does that, you need to change something
I mean-
somewhere to make that?
If I were reading this, and Josh, feel free to jump in, that if we have an ADU is intended to be a secondary accessory to a principal single-family dwelling, but then you have 2.51 that talks about an ADU to a business use, that would be the specific, and that would just sort of control, and it doesn't matter that the more general purpose is second residence to a principal single-family dwelling. Is that track on your end?
Yes,
The one thing I caught, and I went back and, because I had the time, and Cal, I appreciate all the work that you did on this, but on the very end, I'm worried that we've removed, or maybe, I could be wrong, maybe they did change it, the detached greater than 500 feet was illegal. We had it in our, if you, for example, remote detached accessory dwelling units located greater than 500 feet from the primary dwelling are prohibited. And I'm not sure, but I think you might have removed that, Cal.
it's removed.
Which article is that?
It's 18, it's at the very end of this here, this document.
18.5?
And it's the second sentence, 18.3.3 point E. 18.3.3 E.
Wait, one moment. Alright, I believe I took that one out because that has to, in the bill, it says, the municipality shall allow one accessory dwelling unit without additional requirements for lot size, except as described by this section, setbacks, aesthetic requirements, design review requirements, frontage, space limitations, or other controls beyond what would be required for a single-family dwelling without an accessory dwelling unit. So I believe we took that one out after some discussion because that is an additional restriction beyond what is required for a single-family dwelling.
I disagree.
I'm with you on that.
So this 500 feet for the detached ADUs, 500 feet is prohibited, is in our ordinance. And this language in here removes that restriction.
Yeah, but I think.
But she's saying it's covered under because of that law change.
Well, the way you would sort of read that in reverse is that if you're citing a dwelling, there's no space limitation that requires it to be within 500 feet of anything. But when you're citing an accessory dwelling unit, there's now a space limitation that requires it to be within 500 feet of something else on the property. So there's and I apologize, I can't remember the full language you read, Cal, but it sounded like that fits in the general intent that there's outside of setbacks and overall lot size, you cannot have a space limitation or other requirement that you're not applying when you cite a single family dwelling.
The reason I disagreed with that, yes, was because the bill doesn't say anything about distance from anything else. So I thought it didn't prohibit it.
Yeah, and I think that's right, I think I had to like, when I read that one, sort of,
Okay.
I'm trying to reorient my brain, like, what is required for a single family house? And tying it to the location of something else isn't, and that's a sort of distance, location, siting requirement.
We have language that says it can't be separate, sold,
I would vote to
subdivided
leave that
separately.
in and let legal determine that. Otherwise, you're gonna have ADUs willy-nilly anywhere in greater than 500 feet. I mean,
I don't know that you will necessarily, like, that's a big distance A, and if you, to that point, you have a principal and accessory, like, they don't, someone choosing to put one, like, for example, I have my lot, and I could put one all the way back on Old Tilton, but if I did that, I would have no ability to subdivide my property, so I'd, you know, kind of put two residences and remove the ability to subdivide, whereas if I sited one right next to my house, I could.
And keeping them closer means you might be able to share septic, which is expensive. So,
But I could
there's a
take a-
lot of reasons that you want to
But
keep it close.
if someone chose to have one remote and far away and they have a big enough lot, is that
Right,
is that even a
I've never known if
downside
I-
that we would?
I'm not sure I agree with the provision here, but if we think the provision is important and wanna keep it, I don't think it's banned by the legislation. Or, you know,
I mean, that gets to the question we all have is you could leave it if there's an argument, if it's not 100% clear, and then someone could choose to say you can't, like, come in with an application and say that this law prevents you from applying the holding me to 18.33E. So that is an option. Cal, do you mind, before we go down that road, just could you reread the section of the legislation so we all have it
Yeah.
sort of fresh in our mind?
The municipality shall allow one accessory dwelling unit without additional requirements for lot size, except as described by this section. Setbacks, aesthetic requirements, design review requirements, frontage, space limitations, or other controls beyond what would be required for a single-family dwelling without an accessory dwelling unit.
Brendan, comment?
Sure.
If the RSAs and our ordinances don't agree with each other, it makes it really difficult for a zoning board to make a decision and not be argued out of the room, because that's what people will do. They will come and say, but the state law says, your ordinance says something else. And then you have that situation where somebody can come in and bully something through. And so, to the best of your abilities, I would humbly ask, for the sake of the zoning board, that you get your ducks in a row. That the ordinances and the RSAs agree with each other, to the best of your abilities.
I agree with you to a certain extent. I think anybody can argue a law and meander an argument, either
Oh, and
pro
they
or,
do.
So-
and they do anyways.
And they do.
So
Yeah.
maybe without having to sort of decide necessarily whether it's a direct conflict, is there anyone here on the board who feels strongly that the ordinance should require an ADU to be located within 500 feet of the primary dwelling? Because if we're fine cutting it and there's an amendment anyway, we don't really have to figure out whether or not there's a conflict. So, like, does anyone have?
if you wanna have it a mile away, it doesn't bother me.
That's sort of my feeling, which is why I'm phrasing it that way. And then
Okay.
if the board as a whole feels that way, then we don't have to resolve the
Let's think,
conflict or not.
what are some of the drawbacks? You'd be having more driveway built to access it, right?
So, yeah, a little more impact on the property by
If you have a
extending the
long
access.
driveway, you might set it along the driveway, so not necessarily.
Right, and that's the other,
Right, you could put one down next to the road from
We've
your
thought
house.
about that 100 times.
Yeah.
My driveway's way longer than 500.
maybe more septic and wells than you would
Yeah.
normally have. So that's sort of the bigger downside, and then
But
the
those are also
financial incentive,
downsides
the
for
like the
people. building them.
the control, yeah, is that someone likely to cite one, unless they have a real particular thing in their mind, is probably not gonna wanna do that, so.
So
We'll
are they
come down
going to
this hill,
need
and
to,
if the board doesn't think it's a big deal, let's move on.
Yeah, I agree.
And this isn't a hill I'm
yeah, let's
willing
move
to
on.
die on.
Moving on.
Alright, so no one is concerned with stripping that one out anyway, just on the substance and then,
Just something I picked up on, so.
and I think it was a good catch and worth discussing, because I think at best it's sort of ambiguous as to whether or not that. Okay. Any other public comments on that one? Was those helpful? Nice. So I think we're not taking votes specifically, but this is just the language that's gonna move forward to the
Yeah.
public
I think
hearing and
actually
attorney review.
if we had a warrant article to delete the ADU ordinance, that might actually comply. You know, it's like obvious what state law requires, you know, once now, it's like ADU, no matter what.
Alright, I'm gonna leave.
Until it gets retracted and then you get nothing.
There
That's
is
true.
that.
There's that.
Alright, where's my agenda? Next one is data center. Is this the one that's yours?
That's my updated one,
Okay,
that
Is there an updated one?
I think the
You pass that
updated
down.
one is better, but.
They came that way,
oh, they came that way, so they stuck at me, so these are all extras, got
That's
it.
So this is different from the one we got by email a few days ago, right?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Of the
Kelsey, you have one? I do.
second one, the only thing I was gonna flag is,
Someone pass it.
whoops. Sorry about that, that's an extra. The only thing I saw in yours, this version, Megan, it looked great to me, but number 3, we don't need, I don't believe, since the town is exempt from zoning.
Oh, okay,
What are we talking about? What-
on the new one.
On the new one, it has the term shall not include, and I think we could just strike the
Number 3,
municipal systems operated by the town of Canterbury, since the,
municipal information. Do we not have a municipal information system?
like, the
No,
town
but
is
the-
exempt from zoning.
The town would be
got it,
exempt
got it,
got it.
regardless.
Sure.
Number 1, why should it be used on-site activities of a lawful business or institution rather than institutional use?
So,
Business
Business
use
use
or
or
institutional use.
should it be,
Or add use to your business?
It's grammatically correct.
should it, I don't know if that's circular or not, but could we put lawful non-data center business or institutional use? I was wondering, like, my lawful business is data center,
Yeah,
and I'm using these for my
good one.
data center, does that make
It
sense
seems
or track,
redundant,
like,
cause it's gonna explicitly say
I think-
state no
yeah,
data
when you were-
centers, but we can.
okay. Yeah, I guess that's a crazy way to interpret that, I'm just being paranoid.
Yeah.
Alright, so I'm good with that version.
I did take cryptocurrency mining out.
Why?
Oh, sorry, you had said that, I heard that the wrong way. I'd say we leave it in,
Okay.
force the state to pass something, and then you,
Okay, so add that back in, but like the new updated version, but add crypto back in and
Yeah.
remove number 3.
yes.
Okay.
What's a co-location center? I don't know that word.
So that means that if it's, I don't know, part cloud computing facility, part something else, and they say, well, this is 60% of this business is co-located with, that they can't come in and put it in under a different business banner.
Okay, so you know, I thought about this, and so, you know, you have a barn where you keep your cows, and then you have upstairs, you have a data center. Right, right?
Great.
Okay, and so, you know, your definition is a facility, building structure, or portion thereof. And so I think,
I think if the data center runs entirely on cow methane, we should allow it.
Well, but to the point, if you have an office building and there's 4 rooms or 4 units, and someone wants to take one
Yeah.
unit to go do crypto mining, you say that's a portion of the premises being
Right.
used for crypto, that's not allowed.
so I'm thinking that you have ban this stuff twice in both sentences.
Oh, I
And-
see.
And I don't mind that, I'm just asking
Well-
whether that's the case.
So,
No.
but is your, so the portion thereof is a portion of the facility. If I heard you right, the co-location center is, the center is used on a property to support a use that is off the property? Is that what you were saying?
Wait, say that again?
I don't know, what's a co-location center?
Was it, when you described co-location center, the impression I got was there is a core business that is located off of the site. And then on the site, they just take a portion of what they're doing and then try to argue that that portion doesn't count.
Yes.
But it's not, that the larger portion is also on the site, it's off-site. Does that make sense?
Correct.
Okay, and so then the word portion at the top refers to a portion of the site. And the co-location center is trying to get at a portion of a business being located on the site as opposed to a portion of the site.
Good God, I know, you lost me a long time ago.
On the third
like-
portion, you lost me.
No,
This is
Do you wanna
not,
just trust that that's not
8:55.
redundant, cause I don't think it's redundant.
well, yeah, we'll
Okay.
leave it as is, and we can also pick it up when we have the public
I
hearing
am
portion.
not
so we
worried
can-
about
Oh
co-locations.
god,
So-
public hearing on this.
The
Nice.
second sentence.
Do I sound crazy?
Yeah,
Yeah, you do.
so, yes, I have a picture in my mind, tell me if I'm right or wrong, because people are gonna need to understand this. So, Lakes Region Tents is located over at exit 17. It's an
Yeah.
existing business, up and going, it's doing fine. Eric decides that he's gonna put his office space or his support staff in a Canterbury location. So on Oxbow Pond Road, the McCurleys have business buildings that have bays. He takes over a bay there and sets up a data center or a
Yeah.
technology.
Does it have an
Center.
industrial scale cooling system, backup generator, high capacity electrical
Cool.
equipment, or similar systems necessary to sustain 24/7 operation of computer system?
I hope so. But if it doesn't, then what?
So,
If it doesn't, then it's not a data center.
the reason that we had an initial discussion on this is that part of the definition of data center kind of touches on all like home computing and normal business computer use, and you are storing, data for your business, whether it's on the cloud, or doing a lot of these personal type uses, or telecom, what was it? Maybe we missed on some of it, but the point being, we wanted a definition that doesn't hit your ordinary home business, home occupancy, or personal use. And so the definition's meant to be big, the kind of thing that in our head, when we think about data center, what we'd be saying, someone who's gonna drop a monstrously big building that's gonna use a ton of electricity and a ton of water. And I think this definition gets us there.
I think they both do, the old one and the new one.
To Lisa's point though, I'm wondering, so co-location center is what you're describing, what Lisa's describing might be prohibited under that number one because it says to support on-site activities. Should we remove on-site?
I think if someone is renting an entire portion of a structure to put in that much computing power to support something that's off-site, we probably want them to fit within the definition.
Okay.
Alright. Any problems just moving that data center definition on towards public hearing?
The new one as
The new one,
revised.
striking 3, adding cryptocurrency mining.
Striking down.
Alright. 3, living space.
Wait, hold on a minute. No, it's okay. Living space, where was this?
It's the big underlying capital gross living area one.
I had two comments. Gross living area, is measured, I noticed it's not a change, but it says it's measured from the external surface of the walls. I have two reasons for thinking that's a problem. One is that, the way that realtors and tax assessors measure living space is they just use their tape measure, or I mean, it's electronic often, but and it also makes like sense that a living space is measured inside, not outside. And second, let's say somebody wants to build a one of those houses where you take 2 foot long logs and you stick them next to each other, you know, so you have a 2 foot wide, 2 foot thick wall, and so you're being penalized 4 feet, and it's not living space,
It's insulation.
it's insulation. You know, my walls are close to a foot thick, and
Article 3, definition.
so I think it
gross
should be
living area,
interior
18.2.
and not exterior in the first
Living.
paragraph. And in the second paragraph, an ADU shall have no more than 1,000 square feet of gross living area and contain no more than 2 bedrooms. I made this argument when we first passed the ADU, I don't know how many years ago. I think it should be 3 and not 2, because if you have parents or a parent with 2 kids of different genders, then you can't really live in the ADU. So I think it should be 3, and this is an issue that comes up in affordable housing all the time. It's more, I know it's a little bit off topic, but it's more profitable to make 2-bedroom apartments than 3-bedroom apartments. And so there's always a dearth of 3-bedroom apartments, so I think 3 bedrooms should be allowed and not just 2.
I suspect that we got to that exterior surfaces of walls thing by someone sort of going the wrong direction from the original wording of measured from the exterior walls, which measured from the exterior walls makes sense. Measured from the exterior surfaces of the walls does not make sense. I think you're absolutely right about that.
Can I,
Surfaces.
I think
Surfaces
it probably makes sense to say the interior surfaces of the exterior walls even.
Yep.
But I think you have a compliance issue, because the tax assessors aren't allowed inside the building, so if you're going to look at compliance, an assessor is only allowed on the outside perimeter of the building, and that's where they're gonna measure, they're not gonna use their laser levels and try to figure out the inside.
But this is
Floor
gonna get
plan.
addressed at the plan stage.
So what?
Like,
Should
this
be
is,
addressed
this
at
is
the
the
building permit
defines,
stage.
yes, that. It's defining livable space for an ADU, but this is, any issues with this are gonna be addressed with the building permit.
Yeah,
the-
long before the tax assessor.
the
It's not
only-
gonna be touched by the
I
tax.
know, but
maybe the way to say it, the only purpose of that definition is determining or limiting ADUs to no more than 1,000 square feet. It
Yeah.
has nothing to do on the
You're right, I
Sort of the
should have said tax assessor.
piece, that fair. Was there, what was the language about bedrooms in the bill that passed? Was it, you can't limit them to only 1, or you can't restrict bedrooms? Sorry, I only just had that thought and I didn't.
Let me bring that back on.
Remember there was parking.
That's a different one.
A municipality shall not limit an accessory dwelling unit to only 1 bedroom.
Okay, so
So-
we are allowed to do that.
You can say 2, you can say 3, but you cannot say 1.
How realistic is it to squeeze 3 bedrooms into 1,000 square feet of living space?
Well,
Channel Greg, he once told me where he lived in New York City, I think it's very possible.
Yeah, but this is not New York City.
I know, but you
yeah,
can.
so I liked when we had the ADU applications come and the basements were allowed and not counted, and I feel like it's one of the few good areas that people can have a little bit more space in their house that doesn't have a full tax rate, and I maybe don't like that this is saying we have to count all basements for an annex for,
I'm pretty sure the existing
limitation.
ordinance does count basements.
it had a height set, I think.
Well,
6 foot.
so does this, it's
So does
that
this.
6 foot mark.
Where did I,
Because I remember
last
somebody
line
came
of the
through with a
first
plan
paragraph.
and their plan had a basement with a height of 5'11" because they wanted to stay
Ceiling
under
height
that.
is
Yeah,
less
but-
than 6 feet.
but- I guess my point is that a basement doesn't typically expand the footprint of the home. Is there a strong reason we want to limit just the residents in town who are putting in ADUs to not have?
Can I explain why we put that in? So I talked with Mandy and Joel about this language
Yeah.
to see how we felt first. So we included, and we grabbed this definition from Concord and edited it to match more Canterbury. The intended for human occupancy is kind of the key word there, so all areas used or intended for human occupancy in basements and attics. So if it's like a completely finished basement where it's like, it can be a bedroom, it can be like completely living space, but then it also excludes basements or attics not intended for human occupancy. And this is particularly for something that went before the zoning board recently, where there was a question about if the room with the furnace should be counted as part of the ADU
Oh, I
or
see.
not. So utility room, so being able to say like the utility room and the mechanical room is not counted as part of the living space or is, this definition allows you to look at, is it finished or is it non-finished and mechanical and storage?
The way I look at 1,000
I agree.
square feet
If-
is, you can make a 20 by 25, I'm just rounding, right, 20 by 25 house, two stories, that'll get you 1,000 square feet. And I think that's sort of what you want to encourage, and if you're gonna count basements, then you're gonna get 1-story houses.
Well, the point of this is that it's counting basements if they're livable basements, in which case it becomes a 3-story house anyways, fundamentally. Like a finished basement is a story.
But it doesn't matter, the way that this is written, it doesn't have to be livable, it's counted anyways.
No,
If it's
no,
not intended
for
for
human
human
sorry,
occupancy.
I created some of this confusion, Cal pointed it out, but just to repeat, the last sentence is not, excludes, and then I'm gonna skip a bit, any space where the floor to ceiling height is less than 6 feet and the portions of attics or basements not intended for human occupancy. So, what Cal pointed out is I overlooked that, and then if you apply that, we're really looking to capture, are they building a walkout that's gonna be the same as a full floor, basically, not a utility room or really short basement or these other kinds of things, and that's the distinction.
Well, probably someone's, if they wanted to build a 3-story house like you just said, they're gonna tell us that the basement's not intended for human occupancy, and then they'll later on finish it.
Right, like it says a garage, not a garage, well, how many places has the basement garage become the playroom or the mother-in-law apartment? It happens.
Does 18 operate after, cause they don't need they don't come to us anymore, right? This is just a zoning ordinance change and it's building permit.
Sorry, could you say that again?
What's, sorry, I'm going back to Article 18. So, there's no longer a CUP for, is that right, for ADUs?
By right.
So, the building inspector would see plans when they go to construct and would see the height and it would be sort of the building inspector working through that issue. And then they would also get to inspect the premises before they issue a certificate of occupancy if someone really wants to mess around. Alright, I'm fine with that. Any other concerns? I think we talked through most of that.
Can we change my 2 to 3? And are we making those changes?
Going to 3 bedrooms is your question?
Yeah,
Oh, I have no problem increasing it to 3, and if they can fit it into bedrooms of the size they want, that's not a concern of
and the
mine. Sorry, I
interior
apologize.
surfaces of the exterior walls,
Well, I think,
as Logan suggested.
Logan, weren't you saying that as written, it's
No,
from the
it's
exterior,
the old version,
surfaces?
the version that's being replaced says measured from the exterior walls, which makes sense. The
Okay.
new proposed version says measured from the exterior surfaces
I
of
see.
the walls, which doesn't make sense.
I
I think
misunderstood.
what the intent is the interior surfaces of the exterior walls.
Yeah,
So.
Which sounds stupid, but is
but
correct.
that's right.
So. I see. So it would simplify it to just say the exterior walls. You just remove surface of the, is that the point? Or that properly
No,
read?
interior surfaces of exterior walls.
Like, the most correct thing, I think, based on, my understanding of intent here, is measured from the interior surfaces of the exterior walls.
So change exterior to interior and add exterior after the.
Yeah. I do think it sounds stupid, but I do
That's
think it
okay,
is correct.
we got there. So that one and change 2 to 3 bedroom, unless there is, cause we didn't talk that through this,
If
okay.
they can squeeze 3 bedrooms that people wanna live in into that space.
Yeah, they may
go
still
nuts.
not want to,
Go
so,
nuts.
alright. Cluster neighborhood with, a note. Which is, I think, the language of the change to, as you're going down, is the third from the bottom and second from the bottom, that instead of change single family and 2 family from allowed to not allowed in the commercial zone, it should just say single family from allowed to not allowed in the commercial zone. Because HB 631 requires multifamily dwellings to allowed by right in the commercial zone.
What's the impetus for removing the cluster ordinance?
Yeah, wait a minute.
We
So-
spent like so much time trying to get the cluster ordinance right, and now we wanna get rid of it?
So this was sort of our timeline, and for discussion purposes, so if the board is not inclined to get rid of it at this point, I think that's a fair opinion. I personally didn't like the ordinance as we were applying it in that application. And I think there is, and this is what I was trying to get to a little bit earlier, maybe it was premature, I think there's maybe a way that we can write it that gives us a lot more control and fits the town's needs. I don't think that we can do that
Sure.
in a timeline before the town meeting to get a
So you're
proposal.
We
talking
do know
about
that it's-
eliminating it for this year and fixing it next year?
Yes, and so it's sort of our priority to go back and draft a proposal that we think fits the town's needs, or not have that as an option, which is also an option, particularly because when it was drafted, we didn't have the state coming and changing requirements for minimum lot size and putting these other requirements on subdivisions, and if you're gonna have the state telling you what to do, there's maybe a greater incentive as a town not to then give more on top of that, where they're already kind of stripping control away.
So I would agree with this exactly, that the state saying that we have to allow multifamily units in the commercial zone better serves the intent that we were trying to do with with our cluster ordinance than what we ended up getting. We wanted to have some units that would be more variable price and more affordable pricing.
I have some like real logistical concerns about our ability to get repealing the ordinance we just fought so hard to get through, and then next year turning around and trying to get a new one through. Like, I think that trying to explain to the town as a whole what the heck we're doing here, and that we're not, all drinking in our meetings, might
look
be a
foolish.
Well, I
tough
mean,
sell.
the pitch is, we had an application come through. Looking at that application and applying the ordinance, it resulted in an outcome that sort of, we had no public comment really in support of the idea. It was, to the extent there was support, it's allowed by the ordinance. That
We've also
ordinance,
established that we've made some updates since the version that they were working on, so.
we did make some updates. Those updates, I think, went to calculating open space, and open space really only related to one density bonus calculation, and the bigger concern was the starting density. And we now have one application where we applied it in one way, so we did that. Sorry, Megan, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, I think that I'm in favor of scrapping it and starting over. I think that can be communicated. Yeah, you're gonna have to eat the looking a bit foolish, but it's in service of doing what's best for the town. And I think that doing this piecemeal by amendment and amendment, these are already so, I mean, look at the language and the semantics we're going through. I think editing bits and pieces over time is going to make it very muddy and messy. I think it should just be scrap it, start over with lessons learned from how we've seen it applied.
That's persuasive.
Yeah, and we will still have to have a public hearing on this portion too, so I mean, let people know, and if there's anyone who thinks that this is a mistake and someone we haven't heard from in the course of the last application who.
I suspect you'll have a lot of people in favor of scrapping it. I think you're gonna have a harder time trying to sell a new one 2 years from now.
Well,
You're gonna be leery.
that may be,
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
think
sure,
if we
how would I
want
put this, I would only, I think personally, I would only be in favor of a cluster ordinance where it is sort of pared back markedly and has a lot of control for the planning board, and so if we
Sure.
don't get there, I'd much
I'm not
rather the
even saying I
status quo
disagree
be
with you on that.
no
I'm just
cluster
saying
ordinance at all than,
I think we would have a much easier time getting, here is the updated version, we're replacing the old one through versus let's scrap one and then bring in a new one. 'Cause
Maybe
I
it's a rebrand, we just don't call it cluster
well,
development.
I totally agree with you,
I
my
think
bigger
you're gonna have a
concern
hard
is
time
is
getting
that, I agree with you on the practicality, it's really the timing piece, and I'm
Sure.
maybe more concerned, and at least I wanted us to have the option to have this in time to have a public hearing, that if we are worried that someone could come in the next year with another large cluster development that basically maximizes the amount of units, and we have very little control over the,
Well,
that
let's say
net
we had
quantity.
an ideal to you, your type of ideal, cluster ordinance all drafted up and all ready to go. It would, it would be on the ballot in one of two ways. One would be like a bunch of scratching out, replace this with this with this, it would be incredibly confusing and probably wouldn't pass. Or it would be repeal or entirely and reenact, right? And I think right now, repeal and reenact might be a non-starter also. Because
You might be right.
so maybe, a year from now with a rebrand is maybe
I mean, like, I'm not married to this cluster ordinance, really my only attachment to it is how much time we spent trying to get it right for so long, and like, it just feels like it feels like a big waste if we just turn around and repeal it now, but like, I mean, some
yeah, but
cost,
we'll be starting from
some
something.
cost. So, yeah, I don't know.
It's not all lost because, we have something to start with and we now know all the problems with it, or at least some.
Oh, sure, that'll definitely speed things.
No, but I mean for us though,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
But, you know.
if I was gonna try to simplify it, I think that the two biggest areas, although I think there's maybe a lot of small areas we do, the two biggest ones are redefining baseline density in a way that more aligns with lower net density, and then redoing the bonus density section
Yeah.
where have the time to really pick what we're doing for what's allowing a bonus density and what the total
One of the problems we were
cap
trying to
is.
solve with the current version was that we had like an ordinance that effectively nobody ever used because it wasn't appealing to anyone to use it at all.
Yeah. And if anyone has experience, because this is a piece that I was thinking about, I'm also not aware of any super large subdivision, so like they weren't using the cluster subdivision, but they also weren't dropping big subdivisions that I'm aware of, or is that?
I've
More or
never
less
seen
right.
one before
So-
Act 18.
True, that no one used the cluster subdivision, but we also didn't have sort of the flip side of a big development through the existing ordinance.
Yeah, I think one of the big problems we were trying to solve was nobody was using it, and another big problem we were trying to solve was where can we make space for an increase in affordable housing in Canterbury, a thing which currently doesn't actually exist. And, you know, what we got was a compromise that virtually nobody is happy with, which is what happens
Yeah, and
with these things, but.
and then, right, the list of bonus density and workforce is just one of many, and they could drop in a community well, and there were some others, and then
Right.
not have to make anything affordable.
It's public comment.
I would say I hate to be this guy, but I kind of don't. It is like 9:20.
Okay. Are you good, since you were part of this discussion with this version, just going on for public hearing, and then we can revisit that, cause even at the public hearing, we don't have to approve and put it on the ballot.
Sure. Like I said, I'm
But
not
it's
married to the thing.
Sort
It's
of,
fine.
the issue for the window, so, and
Public
then,
comment.
yeah, sorry, I wanted to wrap that piece up.
So we do have another cluster development, the one off West Road, Cambridge Drive is cluster. I remember that, because I went to the hearings and they called it cluster.
Yes, that was the first,
That was Luke Smith's,
yep.
and they do have open areas in there.
Okay.
So it's Cambridge Drive and is it on a loop? You know which one I mean, on
Yes.
West Road?
Yeah, there's a lot of problems, there were a lot of problems with that cluster
That's right.
development, and we were trying to fix some of them, and
Right.
obviously didn't
Because I
get
went to some
where
of
we
them
should
and,
be.
Mr. Hubert and Mr. Lee didn't like it because it was gonna affect their properties on Boys Road.
No, there's problems with that one too.
So that was the first cluster development that I'm aware of.
Okay. That's very helpful,
How
thank you.
about Sherwood Forest?
Yeah, well, Sherwood,
Alright.
the forest, it appeared, I've always said Sherwood Forest appeared, and then we had zoning suddenly.
Yeah.
Alright, Logan, you're,
You know,
I have no
Sherwood
problem if you
Forest is the
wanna go.
only affordable housing in town, and it's a lovely community for the people who live there, they love it. On the other hand.
Actually,
I wanna flag two things real quick. We have the wetland setback, which was the last one, and the timeline is pretty important to move this along, which is fine if you need to go. The second is, I was flagged that if we move all of these along, that there is not a time need in terms of having enough time for public hearing to get these all on the ballot. If we don't have a second December meeting, which would come out as December 23rd, and is maybe not an optimal meeting time for everyone. So, before you go, Logan, are you opposed to canceling the December 23rd meeting, and even if you leave and we go through the wetland setback one, at least enough that we can schedule it for a public hearing?
I have no opposition to canceling meetings unless we need them.
Okay,
So we're canceling December 23rd meeting?
if we can get through the wetland setback ordinance. Or at least enough to say we either don't wanna schedule a public hearing or we are, which,
So are we talking about the wetlands setback?
that's the next one, so yes, that's next on the agenda,
So-
or next and last.
My question about this was, it seems excessively complicated, and I don't know whether that's because, it is complicated, or whether it's because it restates what current rules and what statutes and rules already say, and do we have to restate it? Can we make this, you know, so like, right there in paragraph 1, filter, this is, sort of the definition of,
Joshua, are you looking at a black and white screen?
yes.
A bunch of that's in red and it's not actually part of the thing.
Well, I know, I understand, so the
Okay.
black is what would be
Okay.
the ordinance, right?
Alright,
So-
just
so-
checking.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, thank you. Do we need, that's like the whereas statement, do we really need the like how great wetlands are in our ordinance?
So the reason the purpose statements come in is actually when things go to the zoning board, that's why I'm pointing at Lisa, sorry. And when they walk through the variance criteria, and part of it is contrary to the spirit and purpose of the
Yeah,
ordinance, and so
yeah,
it's helpful to define why we have
Yep.
something so they can weigh that. This, like overall, this is much shorter than most of the wetland setback ordinances.
Well, this red actually answered a lot of my questions.
Yes, and so I put them in so that
Yeah.
people would see the definitions, but the goal was to not have our own definition that might go out of date.
I withdraw all my objections.
Okay. Just to introduce it briefly, and thanks to Megan as well, who was on the subcommittee, what I will relay is, I think what Bob Steenson will say sort of primary is, do we actually need a wetland setback ordinance? Are we sort of, what he says, a problem or a solution in search of a problem kind of situation? Where we landed, sort of balancing that position and the idea that at least some people in the public want a setback, is that this is a very, very small setback as far as wetland setbacks go. It's very mild. What it prohibits is pretty mild, structures and land disturbing activities, as opposed to some go as far as all uses, all types of things. The size of the wetland that triggers a setback is much larger, so that you don't have people's property sort of inadvertently limited by, well, wetlands defined as poorly drained soil, so it's soil based, so you don't have a lot of these like little tiny spots that just flood your property. So 2,000 square feet is pretty big. You should know that there's a wetland or vernal pool or surface water on your property that hits that size.
2 ADUs.
Makes it easier for the town to enforce, because it's bigger, it's something that they're gonna notice.
I'm gonna put my
And so-
swing set in the swamp.
Yeah, so, well, you could do that if you didn't, I guess, I don't know, dig up and alter the terrain to fit it there. So the goal of this is if there's interest, and the town can certainly vote it down, but that this is a pretty mild ordinance, but does create some additional protections for wetlands. It will also help with larger developments, to Greg's earlier point, where it sort of ports more land off limit and gives us a little bit more control over where people are siting things, so that they're not just dumping a commercial business right next to the side of the wetland. So that was the goal of this. I still haven't figured out how I personally feel, like when we get to town meeting time, but I thought it was in good enough shape that we could propose it and see what the residents of town think in terms of, do they want this? And if they like it and there's good feedback, it can be increased. If they don't, they can vote it down. Yeah.
Okay.
The one other piece I'll just flags in terms of why it's there is that last exception 4C is meant to be that if you have a big enough wetland and you're gonna be doing development in the wetland and you get an AOT permit or some other permit from DES, that you're not subject to the ordinance for the setback portion, so that we're not double dipping with things that
Is this
should
copied
have.
on mine, or is that print?
Which part?
So see, turn your paper over.
Yeah, I have some personal
Okay.
notes on the back of one of them.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is, there was a copying error, so it's
Okay.
not personal notes, it's, I had to write it down.
The last
before
part of
this
C.
meeting.
I see.
I couldn't tell whether somebody, this was mine that somebody wrote on the back, or if that was copied. I couldn't tell the difference.
That was me trying to
Good
get it
job.
on there before the meeting started.
Good job.
And then the last piece, we sort of intended that definition of land disturbing activities to be, it's gotta be kind of a lot, and that we're not inadvertently hitting, like haying or doing these other things next to wetlands that a lot of people typically do, mowing your lawn, that kind of stuff. Alright. Any high level issues, because again, we can still revisit this at the public hearing portion, but we're, alright, good enough. Hesitate to ask, but any new business?
I have a very quick new business. I turned it to Jim Bassett and he wants to be an alternate. And I said, come on in.
Okay,
So you might hear from him, I don't know.
let me know.
That would be
Sounds
great.
good. Alright, thank you, oh, sorry, we need a motion.
Did you do approval of minutes before we got
We
here?
We did
did,
it.
Did that before you got
we
there?
did,
We took all your things.
Oh, thanks.
But December 23rd, yes or no?
I got that as positive for canceling, and so I was gonna cancel it. I don't know that we need a vote
Okay.
necessarily.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Alright,
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Alright,
Aye.
thank you all. See you in January.
Whoops, happy holidays.